are in the fourth skill of chapter 3 of emotional intelligence, which to me, it's another one of those examples where it's very easy to read. It's very simple language, very easy to understand. And yet when you think about it, you're sort of thinking, whoa, this is a big thing we're talking about. So we went through the personal side, which was self-awareness, self-management. Now we're talking about the others side, which is having social awareness. But this one's called relationship management. Now, I think that you can have social awareness, which is you're picking up on things and you're aware of your place in that social circle, whatever circumstance it might be. But I don't think that's necessarily the same as relationship management. To me, it looks like this is the skill that people often see in terms of leadership, in terms of those that do great teamwork, collaboration. They'll have great skills in conflict management as well. So it's being able to also influence others in handling the combined emotions in the group, right?
Yep. So thinking back to other books that we have talked about in light of our last conversation with social awareness, we're on one hand, we're feeling what other people are feeling, or at least trying to. We're being empathetic, that high value of empathy. Now, what do we do with that? We're not trying to manipulate somebody by feeling what they feel.
Right.
We are trying to say, okay, Nathan, you seem like you're irritated. Tell me more, because I value our friendship and I want to know what you're thinking. Perhaps if I've offended you, or perhaps if something's going on in your life, inviting you to talk about it. Because let's be honest, I heard this way back in my in one of my counseling classes. The quality of our relationships will equate to the quality of our lives.
Right. That's a great, I don't know if that's a quote, but
that's a quote from one of my professors. Thank you, Mr. Michael Dittman. Quality of our relationships will equal the quality of our lives. And so this whole concept of relationship management is so important. And it's not like this is foreign to the scriptures.
No.
Right?
Right. I do think that, for somebody who might say, well, my relationships aren't great, what do I do? Well, the first one, I think that's why there's so many books about mindfulness and things, is because the first step is actually self-awareness, which is the first skill. Your ability to start becoming aware of where you're at in the picture and how well you're understanding your own emotions eventually leads to the point where you're understanding, okay, if I can understand the other person because I'm more in tune with where my emotions are at as well. So it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And, you think of what the scriptures teach: relationship with God and relationship with people. And that's really at the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
And these authors say under the section on relationship management that it is our ability to use our awareness of our emotions and those of others to manage interactions successfully. And this will ensure clear communication and effective handling of conflict. And again, how we deal with conflict will also determine the quality of our relationships, and our relationships will determine the quality of our lives. So this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
There was some statistics I read about emotional intelligence in the workplace as well. So it says that 70% of people, leaders, would value emotional intelligence in an employee over IQ, because they're saying EQ is really hard to train because it feels complicated. Whereas skills, technical stuff you can teach, right? It just feels more linear. Um, and it does say leaders with 75% are more likely to promote a highly emotional, intelligent worker, just because things like likability and trust greatly determine the success of a team. In fact, there was a study done that was looking at how many doctors were being sued, and there was a correlation to their kind of the likability and trust factor, meaning doctors who had a really low likability and trust factor were often sued more, even if
Wow.
even if the pain or injury was not as bad as a different doctor who was liked more. Just because, right, the emotional connection, the more it's broken, the more, the greater crises and problems there will be. So that goes on to say, the quality of your relationships is going to determine your life, and it's true. So
Yeah. I mean, whenever we determine that there's a person that we can sincerely say they care about me,
yeah,
I mean, we give that person a whole lot of latitude
we
and
do,
grace.
we do. There's a lot more patience. There's usually an attempt to understand, at least, and I think it starts on that first level of self-awareness, and it just says, I am face to face with Scott right now. I'm not just talking to a wall, expecting the wall to just absorb all of my emotional opinions, or emotionally charged opinions. I'll say it that way, right? Um,
That's right.
and I think that's what's caused such a distance and a divide between topics of today, is because I don't know how many of those who have provoked them have the emotional intelligence to say, are we actually talking to each other? Or are we just hurling different verbiages at one another? Right?
Absolutely. Which often that's what that is. I even think of, debates in theology, which I enjoy listening to. It is often somebody defending a system
Right.
versus that person actually saying what they themselves believe. At least that's how it can come across. This whole conversation reminds me of the saying, people don't care what you know until they
Yeah.
know that you care.
Right.
Have you ever
Mhm.
seen the poster, Everything I Needed to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten? Something like that. Everything I needed to learn about life, I learned in kindergarten. And, I'm going through this book. It is so basic. It's so, so good. And it does remind me of the 12 steps 8 and 9 in particular, which quite honestly, far easier said than done. You and I just read them last night, but living this out is
Yeah.
challenging. Step
Yeah.
8 is we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Wow. And then step 9, we made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So, as it relates to recovery, managing our relationships is at the heart of recovery. Now, you might have to think about
Yeah.
that. It's like, well, what do my relationships have to do? I mean, I'm the one who keeps making this decision. And yet, at the heart of the 12 steps
Right.
is self awareness, right? That was step 4, searching and fearless moral inventory. And
Hmm.
then steps 8 and 9, getting right where we can, when it's possible, when it won't injure somebody, getting right with other people. So, managing our relationships,
Yeah.
what they're talking about here at the end of chapter 3 and emotional intelligence 2.0, really has a whole lot to do with our recovery.
It does. I am going to throw this out because I think that you've read it too. There's a book called Switch, and it was a business book about communication, and basically they're attributing the fact that the biggest persuasion needs to be on an emotional level, and they likened it to trying to direct an elephant. And and they said, if you think about a charging elephant, how easy is it to try and change its path, right? And I think that our recovery has so much to do with being able to become more aware and redirecting the charging elephant, in whichever direction it happens to be going in, because you want it to go in the right direction. Of course, it's hard to stop a charging elephant. So
Absolutely. Well, relationships are important. They're so important. And well, I'll end with this thought. Last night, at one point, you at our Celebrate Recovery meeting that we have here every Monday night at Christ Community Church, you said something like, you used the word family, something like, it's great to be with our Celebrate Recovery family. And when I hear that, it's so powerful, because it reminds me, we're not just people sitting in a room here to gather information, though, of course, that's part of it, the left side of our brain.
Yeah.
We are people here longing for a relationship with God and others. And knowing that gives me the motivation to keep coming back. It's like there's people here who care. It's not perfect by far, but man, people here care. And if they care, I care to know what they know. I'd like to know more about what they think and who they are. So powerful word when you said that last night about family.
Yeah. Well, I know we're not going to leave you hanging on just talking about these, because the next one is starting to say, okay, what comes next? So we do look forward to jumping into that in the next chapter. And we hope to see you then.
All right. Have a great day.